I think we're on, and welcome to the Nightmare Cabin, and we are doing an episode of Let's Talk About. I'm joined by a very special guest this week. Well, I say this week, I don't really do them weekly, but yeah, this is Chris Jennings, editor and owner of worshipmetal.com. How are you, Chris?
Not bad, bud. You're right.
Good. Yes, thank you for coming on, and it's a pleasure to finally speak to you. I mean, we've been speaking over the years via different comments and Messenger and things like that. It's the first time I had an opportunity to properly speak to you.
Absolutely, mate. Absolutely.
So I think before we get into the talk about Sabbat, tell us a bit about the website, the history of it, and what you're up to now.
Yeah, I mean, it's worship metal. It's because I worship metal. You know, it's pretty simple what it is, really. Every subgenre going, whatever it is, if it's loud and it's heavy, and people are growling and screaming and singing, obviously, over the top of it, then I'm in. And I was writing for What Culture a few years back, and I was just getting sick of them editing the life out of my work, and I thought, you know what, I'm just going to start up my own. So Worship Metal was born 6 years ago, just over 6 years ago, and it goes well. It's going well. It's not huge. It's I've got a good core audience who are really faithful, and genuinely they seem to like what I like, and I just put out. If I've put it out there, if I've reviewed it, it's genuinely because I've liked it. So whether it's death metal, black metal, thrash metal, speed metal, new wave, British heavy metal, it doesn't really matter to me. Good metal, I'm covering it, and that's pretty much what worship metal is all about.
I mean, as a reader, the two things that stick out for me, first and foremost, you guys love a list. I love a list. This, I don't know. Is it just because you do have a couple of contributors, don't you? Or is it all yourself?
No, it's not. No, it's not just. I mean, I've had quite a few over the years. It's you know, I can't pay people anything. Everybody does this off their own back, you know. So
yeah, of course. Yeah.
People come and go, and I get that. But there's me. There's been Gav in Northern Ireland. He's been with me from the start. Stuart in Scotland. He's been with me. He's dropped out a little bit, but he's coming back again. It's picking up. I've got Darren. Yeah, there's been a few that, you know, sometimes I've gone up to about 10 writers at once, which is great for the output, and sometimes it feels like it just goes back to me, but it's in and out, and you know, people have their lives, they're busy, and all I want them to do is continuously write about metal, which, you know, they can't always do.
Yeah,
so small team.
I mean, you always put together really good lists, and I think, especially with my channel, I always try and keep in mind that, you know, I might be sick to death of talking about Metallica, or, you know, but I always think a youngster might be watching it and they want to figure out what's what, or they might be getting their head around it. So that's what particularly that these Let's Talk About videos are about. So if someone wants to get into a band and they're not sure where to start or etc., and I think those lists are really good because you'll go, you know, you'll break it down by a decade or a genre. And I think something about a list. I mean, I think us metalers do tend to be a little nerdy, and we tend to make lists. It's just a thing, isn't it? It's and we're always trying to break things down to the top this and the top that and top 5 solos, and I think it's a good fun to read. But secondly, I always discover something when I read your articles. I think you've and that's something I try to do with this channel as well. Is you always try and steer people in the direction of something they may have missed. Because if you do like this and you do like that, and Crater, I've got them, and then all of a sudden a curveball will be in there. And many a times I've discovered a good couple of albums that I wouldn't have discovered otherwise.
Good, that's the point of them. That is you're absolutely right. The point is, you know, you want somebody. You know, we were all new to metal at one point.
Yeah,
none of us were born knowing who Death Row were. They just happen to be the best German thrash band in existence, but people don't know that.
Yeah,
do you know what I mean? It's one of those where you need your gateway. You know, everybody's gateway is Metallica, Pantera, whatever it may be. That doesn't mean it's the stuff you're going to settle on for the rest of your life. But how else? All right, we've got the internet, makes it easier. But how do you find out if I like this, I might like this, and that's the point of the list. So I always like to like.
But with the internet, right, I might not have heard of that album, but that album might be impossible to get hold of. But no, with the internet, you'd at least be able to find it on YouTube. At the absolute worst case scenario, someone somewhere would have uploaded it.
Exactly.
You tend to champion the underdog as well. There's a good little section about the underrated album and the case for that. You know, that particular, which we're going to get into later. But we were just talking before we started recording about the Blaze Bayley era of Maiden, the Priest, Owens of Priest, Owens era of Priest. There you go. I'll put my teeth back in. But yeah, I think there was a particular Overkill album. I Wear Black.
I Hear Black.
I Hear Black. That's it.
Yeah.
I've got the. I've got the.
I love an album that gets written off. I love an album where people just because there might be a slight change because there's a shift in trends. You know, the 90s was huge for that. You know, with thrash morphing into death metal and groove metal coming in and stuff like that, and bands who are lambasted for even having the nerve to attempt to change. Well, they've got to change. They've got to adapt, and it's those albums I like. So sometimes I like to draw attention to maybe an album that's got a little bit lost in the mix. Go back to it and say, "Come on, look at it in hindsight. Is this an album that deserves this level of hatred?" No, an Overkill type. I Hear Black is a great album.
Exactly. And no, I mean, I think there's always that album as well, was when you've got a band's like whole collection on your shelf, and every so often I'm sick of the classics and I'm kind of burnt out with the new stuff, but there's these little bits in the middle, and you
normally the 90s.
Yeah, normally the 90s, but you sort of go, well, I fancy listening to them, but I fancy listening to something different, and then you'll pick that one out, and then over time that kind of becomes your favorite album. You know?
Definitely.
Or, I mean, I'm often a big defender of Diablo Musica by Slayer, but that was my Slayer album.
Exactly.
We were talking earlier about new metal was a gateway for people of our age, but and I've said, well, if it often gets slacked off because it's a new metal album, but it's like, but if it is a new metal album, it was one of the best ones, you know.
No, you're absolutely right, and I did put them in an article. We won't go into it because I didn't.
I
didn't speak highly. I didn't speak highly about it, but you know, my love for Slayer is strong, man. So you know, for me, it's all about South of Heaven and Hell Awaits, and
of course, I wouldn't.
You know, it's difficult.
I think everyone has a soft spot for the first album that they get to, and that one was my one.
Great album.
There was one as well that was particularly I think it was the top 10 thrash metal albums of all time, and as soon as I opened it, I think I even left the comment and deleted it. I went, if Dark Angel Darkness Descends isn't on this list, I'm fucking unsubscribing. And then I read it.
Number one.
It was number one, and I was like, I should never have doubted you. And I
got me a lot of shit. I
will fight on that. I will die on that hill with you. That is I think Raining Blood is probably the best, again, for the game. Like, if for a youngster says like, what's thrash metal? I'd probably go, right, here's Raining Blood. Then go from there. But I think over time, for me as well, that's my favourite thrash metal album. Definitely, hands down.
It's been mine for a long, long time, and you know, you get the same in these lists. You get the same old albums, and it's not about trying to be different. It's my personal. I'm the one who's written it. It's my personal thing. So of course you're going to get disagreement and discussion, and that's the whole point. Discussion is great, but you know, I couldn't not put Violence in there. I could not put Dark Angel in there. To me, those albums are the pinnacle of thrash. You know, what can you do? But 10 is too limiting. I hate doing 10. You got to do it, but I hate it because I could name you 50 thrash albums. I could probably name 100, and they would be the ones I would say this is what you got to listen to. But then there's so many of them, you know.
I think Dark Angel in particular, though. I mean, I've done a Let's Talk About video with them. I think they're those 3 albums, 4 if you include We Have Arrived.
Forgotten one. Yeah.
But I mean, they really became Dark Angel when Gene joined them, but those albums have aged like wine. They have.
They're fantastic.
And
yeah,
I think they've got so much. You can hear the influence on a lot of today's music in those albums more now today than ever. And I think they were a perfect gateway from thrash metal to death metal as well.
Yeah, and you know, progressive thrash as well. I mean, you know, the amount of riffs on Time Does Not Heal is, you know, it was on the sticker, wasn't it? I mean, I can't remember how many it was. 4 million riffs in 20 minutes or something.
Yeah, I've got
it. You know, it's unbelievable. It's unbelievable. Yeah. Brilliant album. Leave Scars is good as well. Not my personal favourite, but I know it is many people's personal favourite. But you know, try picking between those three anyway. I mean, it's quality through and through.
Right, I think that leads on to what the topic of today. Today we will be going through the 3 albums by arguably definitely one of the finest bands to ever come from our green and pleasant lands, the almighty Sabbat.
Yeah. Look at that.
The unholy trilogy I've got here. How did you first discover?
I came across them quite late, and it was the reissues of the first 2, because obviously Morning Is Broken gets removed from canon. We'll talk about that later. But we will. Yeah. The first 2 albums, it was the reissues. I forget when. It's quite a while back. Danny Filth from Cradle of Filth. Yeah. Danny Filth from Cradle of Filth was shouting from the rooftops about this band that had inspired Cradle of Filth, and you know, I kind of read a few reviews, and while I loved thrash at the time, I hadn't kind of dived right in, especially with the UK stuff. And so I thought to myself, right, I'm going to pick this up. I'm going to pick up History, and I'm going to pick up Dreamweaver, and just fell in love with those 2 albums from the first listen. I mean, you can't fault them. You can't fault them. They are both, I believe, to be perfect thrash albums, the best thrash albums ever released by a UK band, and I know that's quite a statement, but I do believe they are. I love Onslaught, love Zentrix, love Annihilated, but you know, to me, Sabbat they should have been huge on a global scale. Simple as that.
I think they were for about 5 minutes. I think they got really big really quick, and then they were over just as. That seems to be the story with British thrash bands in general, doesn't it? They seem to really get to that. They really get the momentum going, and then it all just kind of ends in a car crash, you know. But,
I don't know. I think they didn't have the exposure. I mean, look, I wasn't there at the time. We were talking about this earlier. You know, I was born too late. You know, I wish I'd been around in 88, 89, 90. Well, I was, but you know, I was 9 years old. You're not going out and buying the latest.
No, unless you've got an older brother or something like that who can get you into it. But
it's not happening.
Similar to you, actually. I remember reading an article about producers, and there was a bit with Andy Sneap, and it had a picture of him now and a picture of him as a youngster in Sabbat.
Yeah.
And he sort of said, I went from guitarist to producer, and I remember reading about that. But I remember keeping that photo in mind and thinking, I wonder what that band were like. And then I think it was Metal Hammer. They would do an article on like an underrated or an overlooked album, but quite an in-depth one. And then that kind of became a classic metal article. So, they did it on Dreamweaver. And then I made that connection. I was like, oh, that's that guy that I read an interview with a while ago, you know. And I remember reading at the time that, you know, they basically reformed at a barbecue that Danny Filth was there.
That's right.
And was basically just being a big fanboy and basically just nagged them to reform at this barbecue, to the point where it was like, should we just do it just to shut him up? And and obviously these 2 reissues came out. I didn't jump on it straight away, I must admit. I was curious, but it was actually, do you know David Ingram? He used to write for brutalism.com.
Yeah.
Sadly no longer with us.
I know, indeed.
He basically went through a hard time, and basically said he was selling his CD collection.
Yeah.
And he actually sold me these 3 as a set. So these were his. I've got Protector, A Shedding of Skin as well. That's a pretty funny story behind that, actually. he was being a bit of a git, I must admit, because I went, like, how much do you want for it? And he went, well, make me an offer. I was like, just tell me how much you want for it. I just bought it. I bought quite a bit off him, actually.
Yeah.
And he was like, make me an offer. We'll make me an offer. And I went, I'll give you 15 quid. And he was like, nah, no. It's worth way more than that.
Is this for shedding a skin?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it was out of print at the time.
Yeah.
Anyway. And this is what fucking annoyed me a bit, because it wasn't as if he was inundated with offers. Because a few days later, he stuck it on eBay.
for a fiver. Yeah.
Anyway, I won it for 12.
Nice.
And
Nice.
he put this big post out. Fucking, I put this on. It's worth a bloody fortune, and someone's won it for 12 quid. Da, 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 da. And I just sent him a message. I went,
it was me.
Is it 15 including the postage? And he was like, no, it's you. I said, so like, yeah, you should have took 15 while I offered you it.
Got yourself a bargain. That's a great
album.
I
did, yeah. And
great
yeah,
album.
I mean, I think you say Overthrow. I think Protector have got a
Death Row.
But
Overthrow were Canadian or something. When I can't remember now. Too many bands with similar names.
I can't remember with Overthrow. I think
Death Row
that
with the German. No.
Oh, you're talking about. I'm thinking Death Row.
I'm thinking Death with Deception Ignored.
Death
yeah.
Row. I said Overthrow, didn't I? Overthrow.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the thing with band names as well. So. So yeah,
don't worry about it, do you?
I got to admit, I wasn't completely spellbound the first time I heard these guys, but they did grow on me, and I think you can definitely hear the influence that Martin had on Danny Filth as a vocalist.
Yeah, I mean, as a lyricist, I don't think there was anybody better.
Yeah, I mean, obviously Danny Filth's. The Cradle of Filth booklets are like that, aren't they? And
yeah,
but it's it's just a rapid fire. It's telling of a story. He's got a raspy voice that obviously Danny took on the whole black metal aesthetic and obviously did the more of the screams. But he definitely Danny sings in an English accent as well, and the way he pronounces his word. And that's one thing that's particularly. I'll say unique, but it's something I really like about this band is that they do sound English.
Yeah, to me they're always defiantly British. It was so British, and it was so able to so eloquently express the pagan aspects of our culture, the Celtic, whatever you want to call it.
The Anglo, it's weaved in all these folklore tales and. And even in these green and pleasant lands.
the delivery is just, I don't think there was a better lyricist. I try and name one because I can't. I mean, it's pure poetry set to thrash, and I mean, I don't know how he did it. I don't know you say that many words in that amount of time. Never mind.
Not only that, they were fucking kids when they recorded this.
Yeah, they were. Yeah, teenagers.
It's just. How do you become that talented? I remember, I was in bands around that time, and in hindsight, none of us had a clue what we were doing, and they recorded this stuff like this, Yeah, but again, I think, as much as great music, so much great music has come from the UK. Not a lot of it actually sounds English. I mean, even the Beatles sang with American accents, and the Stones were trying to be a blues band from America.
Of course they were. Yeah, of course they were.
It's always nice when you hear a band that that do sound like the British,
and tapping into the history and tapping into the heritage and stuff.
Yeah.
I think maybe that was part of the appeal. I mean, I didn't hear it when I was a teenager. I heard it more when I was in my late 20s for the first time, So maybe I came across it with a different mindset than you would have been if at the time you were into Acid Rain and you. I might be out with the time frames here, but say you were a UK metal fan and you were into Acid Rain and Reanimator, and bands like that. Would Sabbath have appealed? I'm going to presume so, but were they on another level? Yeah, I think they were on a major other level. I think that everything from the playing, the songs, the lyrics, everything about this band, to me, put them at the top of the hierarchy. There, they were leading the way.
Yeah, and also they were signed to a German label, so I think that kind of took them out of that scene. So they weren't so sort of buckled down into the British scenes as such, because when everyone else was gigging around the country, they were carted off to tour around Europe and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So
they were on Noise. Were they on Noise?
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah. But I mean, that first album,
Noise.
I just, I've written loads of stuff about History of a Time to Come on the website and stuff. But to me, that opening, forget the intro, just forget the intro exists. We're not bothered about that. But Cautionary Tale, Hosanna in Excelsis, Behind the Crooked Cross, I can't think of a better opening trio of songs than those three. They are, to me, they just, this is what we are. This is what you're going to get. And we're going to smash around the face with three of the finest songs you're going to hear in thrash, especially in the late 80s. And to me, it's perfection. You can't touch it. I mean, so good. So good.
Again, it's straight out the gate as well, and it is just like it's assault. And I mean, Andy Sneap is just a riff a minute, and
that he is.
The fact that we've just got these 3 albums with him is criminal, really. As much as he's a great producer, I wish I could have more of him as a writer.
Yeah, you can't help but feel a little bit robbed, but at least we've got 2 out of 3 perfect albums, and a third one that divides opinion on a massive scale.
I mean, obviously he did Hell as well, which I'm going to be doing a video on them soon.
Nice. I saw them a few years ago. Yeah, they were brilliant.
Fantastic band, but I don't think he did a lot of writing with them, especially that first album. It was all re-recorded demos, wasn't it?
I think he just got them going again, didn't he? Wasn't it just about getting them back out there, and that Human Remains album, wasn't it?
It's a fantastic backstory, a really inspiring story that this band, it basically ended with the singer committing suicide, and but he taught Andy how to play guitar, and I don't know how I'll have to look into it, but how it came about. But it was just like, no, we need to record this. These songs needed
too good,
and I think Andy oversaw. He got the remaining band back together, and started recording the songs. Giving them a modern kick and a proper production and all the rest of it. And I think it was Martin that was originally going to be doing vocals.
He was in the band for a couple of years, wasn't he? He was actually but it didn't. I don't know.
At the last minute, though, the other guitarist's brother was made aware, and he's an actor, like the Shakespearean actor.
Just the theatrical delivery of the guy,
and
it's unbelievable.
Absolutely perfect. I mean, he's not even like he's a singer; he's like a narrator, isn't he?
Oh, it's amazing.
I saw them live.
Amazing.
Funny enough, I saw them opening for Onslaught when Onslaught did the False in Full. And he's just so engaged with the audience.
Yeah.
And he's, where he's got the mic, he doesn't hold a microphone. He's got one of those ones.
Yeah.
So he's everything. He's just telling a tale, and he was changing. I mean, if they had the budget of Ghost, that band would be.
You're bang on. You're absolutely right. What's the difference apart from Hell have got better songs? But I mean, I saw them in Birmingham probably about 4 years ago, and the show was off the charts. What a show they put on! Pure theatrics, pure. But you can see where Sabbath. Into that. Yeah. They've got that, haven't they? They've got that same kind of delivery. Maybe not the theatrical showmanship, because it doesn't quite go that far, but that kind of sense of drama, I think. So that is the sense of drama. That's what Sabbath have always had, and the kind of music that just you're on the edge of your seat listening to it, because you can't quite tell where it's going to go next, other than into another great track, which was normally the there was no filler.
I think it. No, absolutely not. I think it can be a bit of a barrage on the first listen. Yeah. So anyone that's new to the band, like if you listen to it off the back of this, I would say definitely it's repeated it rewards repeated listens, and it does sort of it kind of becomes a bit more clear with subsequent listens as well.
Yeah, definitely.
I think I'm gonna. This one divides opinion. Actually, is which one's the better of the two?
Which one's better?
Right. Well, what I would say, there is no reason why you would get just one. You've got to have both. I think sometimes there's on many occasions there's what I refer to as the 1-2 punch.
Yeah.
So two albums are they just go together. They're like one big album. I think that would be the first two Iron Maiden albums. I think the first two Merciful Fate albums.
Yeah,
Melissa
cool.
and Don't Break the Oath, they're just interchangeable.
Yeah.
Heaven and Hell and Mob Rules by Sabbath.
Classic,
yeah. This one might be better, that one might be better, but it's by a hair difference.
On any given day, isn't it? It's on any given day. One may feel...
So I'll put my cards on the table, and I think Dreamweaver is the better album overall as a whole. But the best songs are on Issue of Time to Come. And I think my personal favourite is For Those Who Died.
Nice. Good shout.
I love that riff on that. It's the closest they get really to a straightforward sort of metal song, really. It's I
can't argue with you. It's to me it's the greatest thrash album ever produced by a UK band. Done.
Yeah, I just
Done
love
deal.
that. Dun, 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 dun,
The man,
it's got that little Randy Rhodes ring at the end.
Yeah, I mean the man, the riffs that he peeled off were just ridiculous. There's enough riffs on that first album to make about 4 albums, but fuck it, just throw them all in.
It's like
why not?
It's just both albums I think have just aged wonderfully, and I think the main difference I think is with Dreamweaver is obviously it's a concept album, so it's to be listened to as a whole. So that might be why I think it might be better as overall as an album. But I think the what's sort of hinted upon on the first album is slightly extended on Dreamweaver. So where there might be just a little intro on the first album, this one you've got like a whole acoustic song with Advent of Insanity, things like that. There's little things that are there already, but they just open up a bit more.
Everything's bigger,
and
everything about Dreamweaver's bigger.
Yeah, and I just think every note, everything is just perfectly in pace, and all the way the riffs are just so complex, but they're not just widdly for the sake of it, and it's like a tapestry. It's just beautifully woven, and it just zooms out, and you got this wonderful picture.
No, I can't argue with any of that. I mean, it's a perfect album. Both of them are perfect. So to try and pick between the two is almost impossible. But I would struggle to think of another British metal, a proper metal, thrash, progressive metal, just with an element of extremity to it. I can't, can you think of a better album or anything that maybe, let's not say we're saying
certainly not like in this style. No, definitely not.
It's very hard to pick anything. I mean, it took everything that was good about history and just amplified it and made it. I'm going to say made it better, but I still prefer the first album, so I'm contradicting myself massively. But the Clerical Conspiracy was the first track I ever heard from Dreamweaver, and I think I heard it it might have been on a Metal Hammer cover mount CD or something like that. I know I heard it out of context, and I didn't own the albums at the time.
Yeah,
and I remember just thinking, that's a song. What the fuck? Who are these guys? This is unbelievable. And I think maybe it was that then got me to read up about them, and to then go right and picking these albums up, and then going on that discovery. Admittedly, not a massive discovery because there's only the 3 albums, but How the Mighty Have Fallen, amazing. Wildfire, amazing. What an album! What an album! Yeah, as far as progressive thrash goes from UK shores, Christ, there's not much else, is there?
Yeah. The Best of Enemies is one that sticks out for me as well.
Yeah.
I just like that sample as well. I think, which one is it? Is it the I think it might be the Dark, where it goes, "Who are you that walks across the fields?"
Yeah.
In the thing of this hour of the night. It just sounds fucking brilliant, doesn't it? You can imagine.
And again, everything
walking
about
through some forest in some English countryside. And,
so English.
Yeah. And some old man that lives in the trees. Who are you?
It's so unapologetically English, you know. It just to me, I know they're not dealing with that, but it always makes me think of Witchfinder General and The Wicker Man.
Yeah, exactly.
And you know, those kind of films, which there's actually something quite creepy about these albums. I think there's something dark. There's slightly something on the edge of disturbing, and I think that's what they're going for. And I think that's what that pagan-esque feel does for material like this.
I think one thing as well, and I don't think this is a generation as well that grew up on Hammer horror. Now, again, I saw Hammer horror. It was late night on Channel 4 on a Friday. There might have been a Dracula one, but these guys would have been growing up on it. Yeah, exactly.
Shit like that.
And there were so many of them as well, weren't there? And all of them touched on these different, witchcraft and To the Devil a Daughter and stuff like that. I guess The Wicker Man as well was another great film.
Amazing film.
A lot of people think that's a Hammer horror, but it's not.
No, it wasn't. No.
But that was a great film as well, and that must have had a big influence as well on a lot of these bands. Like, I don't think Danny Filth would deny, but he was massive. They had a big impact on him as a youngster.
What, Hammer horror? Definitely. Yeah, absolutely. The Vampire Lovers and films like that, all that kind of gothic melodrama with boobs and blood. Of course, he loved it.
Yeah, what was it?
He must have loved it.
It's pretty much every Cradle of Filth music video. Yeah,
that is what it is. Yeah, that is what it is. But yeah, I mean, again, the Dreamweaver, Reflections of Our Yesterdays. That's the full title, isn't it? I think.
Yes, Dreamweaver. Yeah, it's based on a book as well. I've got a note of it here somewhere.
Right. The way of what is it? It's the Anglo-Saxon thing, isn't it?
Yeah, Way of the Word or something like that. But it's spelt differently.
Yeah.
Not something I've ever read. Have you?
No. Never even occurred to me to read it. To be honest. I mean.
Yeah, Way of the Word, but WYRD, and by Brian Bates, and I think Martin's pretty into this pagan stuff as well. He takes it pretty seriously, I believe. Yeah.
Oh yeah, definitely. I mean, you only got to look at Skyclad, haven't you?
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
You know. And the Clandestine as well. You know, everything he's touched is brilliant. Let's be brutally honest.
I'm not that familiar, to be honest. I'm a bit more familiar with Skyclad than the other bands you mentioned, but all
worth checking out. All worth checking out. I mean, especially the early Skyclad stuff, because I think that was the direction he wanted to go in that Andy maybe didn't want to go in.
Yeah.
Which was adding those folk elements, you know. But to me, those first 2 or 3. Maybe pushing it. First 2 Skyclad albums were brilliant. That was the continuation.
Funny enough, we'll talk. Well, I think we'll get onto Skyclad a bit later. But I mean, I saw Skyclad a few years. That was the same show actually. It was Skyclad, Hell, and then Onslaught, and they're kind of like a metal levelers now. They're much.
The levelers. Yeah, you're right. You're absolutely right.
It was like watching like some party band, and they were really good. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
And they had the whole fiddles going off, and it was all kind of beer raising in the air, the old British, history, you know. And then it was quite weird going, hold on a minute, the singer from Sabbat was in them. How?
And
but there is this cut off in the.
And Onslaught are coming on later. Yeah, it doesn't quite fit, does it?
Yeah, but that was a good night, actually. But,
I bet it was. Yeah, man, I bet it was.
I want to talk a bit about the artwork as well. I think this is interesting.
Well, again, everything about the whole... This is what I mean. Everything about the whole package. Everything about this band. Artwork, extraordinary, eye-catching. You couldn't ignore it. How could you...
I mean, both of them are great. I mean, Dreamweaver particularly as well. I mean... again,
Yeah.
you know, just looking at, you know exactly what you're getting. Like,
Yeah.
right, this is a metal album, and it's going to be about, you know, the Anglo-Saxon, the paganism, the, you know, old British mythological token inspired. You just, it's all just in there, isn't it?
Yeah, it is absolutely,
and,
absolutely right.
But yeah, you've got this.
It's eye-catching, isn't it? Look at it.
Yeah,
Brilliant. You're not walking past it in HMV. If anybody goes to HMV anymore, you're not walking past it if it's there. To me, you're like, well, I'm going to get this. Look at that.
But then in the little brew that they're making there, the spirit of that comes, that same figure comes out.
Yep.
Makes you wonder, doesn't it? Like, if they ever did do another album, would they incorporate that in with it as well? But
that'd be a thing,
cool little animate illustration of the band there, which I thought was really cool as well.
Yeah.
With a like some witch or demon in the background there.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think that's a pretty good photo as well, though. Them in front of Stonehenge with the sunset.
It's fantastic. I mean, again, it's the whole aesthetic. It tells you exactly what you need to know. There's no second guessing what this band are going to do, how they're going to present it, and what they stand for and what they believe in. It's there. It's just, it's there in every single element of their identity. That's where they got it so right. No confusion. You knew what you were going to get. It's kind of a shame that they kind of 2 albums fell out, split up. That's the actual words of Andy Sneap or something. I'm pretty sure in an interview once he said 2 albums fell out, disbanded, something like that.
I think I watched that exact interview yesterday. Actually, I did a bit of. I was getting a bit sick of listening to the album, so I started watching some gigs. And what came up was that little 7-minute one. And yeah, she went, give us a brief history on Sabbat. Got together, 2 albums, split up. Yeah. And it was, 88 and 89.
I mean, over in a flash, wasn't it? I mean, too soon for such talent and such a unique sensibility. You know, if only, if only.
Well, I think they were pretty young. I think, by the sounds of it, they weren't getting paid jack shit, and I think they were pulled out, thrown around Europe, did a big tour. I think, back to back as well, the 2 albums, and I think eventually something just. I think one must have gone, sod it, I want to go home, and the other ones went, yeah, so do I, and it's like at those age you fall out over nothing, and I suppose if you're in a tour bus and little things get on your nerves, but it seems like the main friction was between Andy and Martin, and it seems like they you have that in all bands, don't you? Obviously, you get like the front man or it's normally the front man and the guitarist are the 2 main driving forces behind the band. It's like they're at loggerheads, but that chemistry is what makes them so great, And,
exactly.
Apparently, Martin wanted to go in a more it was like he wanted to go folk. So no, I don't think he wanted to go folk. I really just wanted to incorporate more folk in the sound. And in that interview, Andy goes, "Well, fuck that. I didn't want to do that." It's like, yeah, but you kind of already did.
But that's the Skyclad thing, isn't it? I mean, and to me, I don't know. That almost to me feels like the direction they should have gone in. I mean, who am I to say? And Andy Sneap's a legend. I'm not going to tell him what he should have, shouldn't have done 20, 30 odd years ago. But to me, maybe
things seem to have worked out for him as well. All things
he's
considered.
done all right.
Yes.
Yeah, not listening to the likes of you and I, he's done all right.
Yeah.
But
I'm
as a fan, and a fan retrospectively, so really that doesn't hold much water. But as a fan, I can't argue with Martin's ideas there to take it to add the elements of folk, which is uniquely British again, but maybe not over the top.
It wouldn't have been that big a leap, would it? I mean, I just think maybe 1 or 2 songs just interwoven into the album, or maybe just a couple of some interludes.
Well, a little bit of mandolin.
Yeah, but they but it was there in Dreamweaver though, wasn't there?
It is all there. I think you're absolutely right. But maybe Andy's problem was where it was. It is there.
Maybe
but less musically. It was always there lyrically, but maybe Martin was pushing for musically, and that was where Andy drew the line because that was his realm, that was his domain. And he's like, no, I'm not writing riffs which sound like I'm playing it on a lute. you know, they don't want to do. He didn't want to do that because he's in a thrash band.
Flutes. Yeah, maybe it was. He wanted to go one further and go, yeah, I want to bring different instruments into it. Maybe that would have been.
Who knows? And maybe Andy just wanted to go heavier.
Yeah, yeah. Maybe want to go full Wicker Man and have like starting. And on the tree there was a man.
Why didn't they do that? What a missed opportunity! What a missed opportunity that is. And they could have had a video where they were doing Morris dancing. I mean, there's so many opportunities. Well, I mean, what a thing.
I mean, I know Iron Maiden touched on it, but I think that like following the narrative of that film, that would make a fucking good music video. You could make it a lot more sinister as well.
Yeah, that'd make a great concept album, wouldn't it? I mean, I'm a massive fan of The Wicker Man. I think it's probably one of the greatest British films ever made, horror or otherwise. I mean, it's such a work of genius. But
yeah,
it's
another one of those films as well that it needs repeated viewings, because the more
it's subtle.
Yeah, the more you watch it, the more it makes sense, and the more you notice as well. It's like this was a setup all along. Like every you know,
don't say, people might not have seen it. You can't say that.
What did I give away?
No, nothing, done that.
Yeah, but that I'll have to do something like that with it. I've been toying with the idea actually of doing a few film discussions. So yeah, maybe we'll.
Oh, mate, honestly.
Yeah.
Full of horror films and music, nothing else. I'm no good for anything else in life, but it's
not much better myself. No. So yeah, we so the band split. We can mull over it all we like, but what happened.
Yeah.
And then so I think it was. Oh, that was one thing we've made. The first album was recorded as a 4-piece, and then the second album we added a guitarist, and it became a 5-piece, and that was
Simon Jones, wasn't it?
Simon Jones, that's right. Yeah, and he came back for the. It was pretty much the same lineup, wasn't it, for the reunion, for the Dreamweaver lineup, and apart from Giz Butt took over on bass, the other bass player weren't up for it really, or different. Fraser Crust.
Yeah.
Crust, I think I'll pronounce that right.
I'm not even going to attempt it.
But yeah, so Martin and is it Simon or is it Fraser that left, and they went on to do Skyclad.
Yeah, well, he teamed up, didn't he? Martin teamed up with.
It was kind of 1-on-1, wasn't it? They did.
Yeah, a couple of the lads from Pariah and stuff like that, wasn't it? It was kind of a bit of a meeting.
Satan.
Have I got that right? I think I've got that right.
Yeah, but the
Satan and Blind Fury and those kind of bands, and then you had Pariah. They put out two cracking thrash albums. I don't know how they weren't bigger as well. We'll do that another day. But there's the Skyclad thing was almost like a meeting of two outstanding UK bands coming together to kind of, for me, move on from where Sabbat left off. But.
Yeah, so but Simon Negus on drums and Andy Sneap carried on.
And exactly.
Got a new guitarist, new bass player, and a new singer, Richie Desmond on vocals. Yep. And they come on to. I think it's just the main reason. I think we wanted to. Well, I think you wanted to talk about Sabbat anyway. We was talking about what would be a good band to go through. It's like, yeah, we've both got a thing for British thrash, but you wanted to pick something that was a bit off the beaten track, a bit of an underrated gem, and then Sabbat all came together. So one of the most underrated, most maligned.
Yeah, by even the people who created it. Yeah,
yeah.
I mean, it's an anomaly. It stands out alone. It isn't. It's unlike any other. Is it even thrash? I don't even know.
Yeah, and that's the thing that's the most interesting thing about it is that the person who's going to slag it off the most seems to be Andy Sneap.
Yeah, he hates it. I mean, it's been written out of history books, isn't it? As far as Sabbath, the band, are concerned, this album doesn't exist. If you're going to look at the purely,
I think this and Cold Lake are the two hardest.
They are the two most maligned albums by the people who actually created them that you could ever come across. Yeah, and I don't hate either of them. How about that?
No, I don't either. No, I've got a bit of a soft spot for Cold Lake, actually. I think the same with Cold Lake, and this is take the band name off them. It's a new project,
and maybe that's what should have happened.
Yeah,
maybe that's what should have happened. But to me, Morning Is Broken. It's got elements of doom, more to do with Richie's vocal style, maybe. Which, look, I'll hold my hands up. Doesn't fit. It feels completely disparate from the music that Andy Sneap's writing riffs.
I think
writing solid riffs, really good riffs. Too many, maybe. This is the point. There's too many riffs in these songs. The singer is good for what he does, but it doesn't quite fit. And yet somehow I come back to this album time and time again because I'm forever surprised by it. It doesn't ever do anything I expect it to. And for that,
yes, I understand what you mean because, again, I think it's, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think it's what I mentioned earlier. It's an album you listen to when you're not sure what you're in the mood for, but you just want to hear something a bit different. Something that I can just, it's going to challenge me a little bit and I've got to mull over a little. Yeah, and this is a perfect album for that because there is just so much going on. I think that was a big divide in the band as well because I think Martin went, I want to expand and incorporate this and throw in different influences. Martin was like, no, fuck that, don't want to do that. But then on the other hand, they said what Andy was writing, was just really complex and a little bit off-putting. And I think there was, I read a quote. They went, well, on one hand, Martin was wanting to do this. He went, but then Andy was writing songs that are all 45 minutes long. And so I think, I guess he must have just been, I think you do get to that point. A lot of songwriters get to that point where they're just, I want to see how far I can go. And when they do sort of crash and burn, I go, they might do an overly technical album or an over long album, or it's like, yeah, but they needed to see how far they could go with whatever it was they were doing. And maybe it burnt his ego out a little bit. Like maybe it kind of knocked his confidence because he thought he might have come up with a masterpiece at the time, but it flopped. So he went, oh well, and now he doesn't like it because of that. I don't know, but
I mean. It's a hard going.
It's certainly not the terrible album that it's made out to be. Certainly not.
Not at all. Like, it may be hard going. It is hard going. It's a hard going album, and that challenge alone is enough to put plenty of people off. And I get that. But I think if you're entrenched in metal and thrash and maybe the UK scene, you're going to give it. You should give it some time because it does. Yeah, it was a critical and commercial failure at the time. Maybe it wouldn't be now. I don't know. And it was unrecognisable from the two albums that came before. It doesn't sound like the same band. It maybe the riffing is there. You can hear it's Andy Sneap, but it doesn't sound anywhere near like the same band. So trying to get your head around that fact can be enough to put people off because if you love the first two, you're going to want to complete the trilogy, but you can't.
Yeah.
It's because it's not there. It doesn't exist. It sits out there on its own, but that doesn't make it a bad album for me. It's off kilter. It's unpredictable. It goes on a bit, but at the same time, something about it I love. It just completely pulls the rug from out under you, and you don't really know why they did it, but they did it.
Yeah, I think
I can't erase its existence. I like to listen to it from time to time. I'm not going to lie. I don't put it on as much as I put on history. You wouldn't. No one in their right mind would. But it doesn't mean that it shouldn't be canon. I think it should be. But that's up to you.
I can't see why they wouldn't reissue it, for example. Like, you're going to get a really overpriced copy on eBay. Either that or on eBay, you've got a lot of these Russian bootlegs.
Yeah.
My opinion on them is I don't mind paying $7.99 for an album that I just can't get hold of anyway.
Because you're not going to pay 250 quid, are you?
Yeah, and it's like, so these people want like £100 for a copy. It's like, well, who's the real thief here? And
yeah, but it's on Spotify.
It just goes to show the demand's there, and if the actual band wants to put out the real article, then I'll definitely snap that up. But until that happens, I've got this one here. I'll just pick one random.
Can't read it.
This is Inquity with Serenadium and The Hidden Law.
Yeah.
I mean, so it's an album and an EP together. And right, look at it. It's
pretty decent.
Got a thick old book there.
Yeah.
Full of like.
Yeah.
I mean, if this is a bootleg, Jesus Christ, you know.
Yeah, it's better.
You would never know. I mean, it might not be. I don't know, but it was from the Russian Federation, so.
I remember buying Demolition Hammer, Epidemic of Violence from a similar thing, because I had to have the album. I just, you know what, I had to have it, and that was what I could get at the time. You know, no apologies, is what it is. Yeah.
Like again, a great reissue with some liner notes and all the photos and some some bonus tracks. Yeah, definitely snap it up. But till then,
exactly.
I think one thing that sets apart is I feel sorry actually, because it's not as if he's a bad singer in any way, but Richie Desmond, he's an American singer, and I mean there are parts where you're like, whoa, this Dio? Like he does. The fact that I'm putting him in the same sentence as Dio should be enough.
Yeah, but it doesn't fit. It doesn't fit. Let's be brutally honest. But at the same time, it's that makes me come back to it, because sometimes I just want to remind myself, what's this album all about again? Yeah.
But and I think as well, there's not a lot of. It's hard. There's so much going on in the songs as well. It is hard to get like hooks and the songs get memorable, but it's memorable when you've listened to it about 15 times and you've got to give it. You got to give it a bit of. You got to be committed. You got to be really committed to the cause. But I mean, it is like, you know, I would liken it to running a marathon. You know, if you're going to sit down and listen to this album, you might want to stretch up. You know, stretch first. You might want to make sure you got some fluids in you, because it's gonna take a while and it's gonna be exhausting. And not only that, putting out a 50-minute album with 8 tracks. The shortest song is the instrumental, which is still over 5 minutes. But yeah, on average, you got a 7-minute long track for each track. Yeah, putting that out in 1991 probably wasn't the best idea either.
I don't know. I get the impression. I get the impression it's not hated now.
I think it's got a bit of a. I think it's got a bit of a following on. I mean, you look on message boards, you look on like review sites and Metal Archives, for example. There's plenty of people that are sticking up for it, and basically, it's just.
Well, I think me being one of them. I put out a thing. This was, I don't know, it was a while back. Is it time to cut Sabbath's Morning Has Broken Some Slack? So it's a series I've done. You know, it includes Megadeth's Risk. No, that shouldn't be cut any slack. For instance, you know, Saxon's Destiny, Metallica's Load and Reload, Paradise Lost's Host. You know, those albums where sometimes you think, if I go back now, if I listen to it again after 10 years or whatever, am I actually gonna look at it in a different light? And I think most of those I said no, maybe not, but Morning Has Broken, yeah.
And like I say, I think forget Sabbath. I think just take that off. Think of it as a brand new band, and it's. I think it stands on its 2 feet. As a separate project, but I think we'd all agree as well. I think the first album by Skyclad. You're gonna have to help me out here, Chris. It's a bit of a mouthful, that one, wasn't it? It was a bit of a long title.
It was Wayward Sons of Mother Earth, wasn't it?
That's the one. Yeah.
I think.
I think that was the real follow-up to Dreamweaver.
It fits. The flow of it is better, isn't it? I mean, the Wayward Sons of Mother Earth. Is that what it's like that? Yeah.
It's the right one. Yeah.
It's full on folk metal, but there is thrash in there. It's still thrash.
That's the thing as well. Surely when Andy, I'm assuming Andy, I think they fell out pretty bad at the time, but surely he must have heard that and gone, oh, that's what he meant.
That's what we did. Yeah, so maybe it was just miscommunication.
The folk was in there and it still works, you know.
Yeah. So. Yeah, it's a great album. It is a great album. Is it? But I mean, it's not in the same league as the first 2 Sabbath albums. It is a better album than Morning Has Broken, arguably. Yeah, of course it is. But That one and the second one, A Burnt Offering for the Bone Idol. God, he loved a pun, didn't he? Jesus, he loved. But both of those albums, proper folk thrash. I mean, they're good. Nothing wrong with them. And again, if Sabbath had done that, and maybe we had 4 albums instead of the 2, because I've removed Morning was broken out of the conversation now. But if you had those 4, what a great work. What a great
and I think
that would be, you know.
If what they were doing on that maybe mixed in with the complexity of the songs of Morning Is Broken, it probably would have made a different thing as well, wouldn't it? If they'd have gone, if someone had just gone to Andy, look, chop that down.
Take 2 minutes out of that.
Edit that off, cut that off, throw in this. Who knows what would have happened? But guess we'll never know. But
we will never know. And I mean, Skyclad didn't keep much of the thrash for too long, did they? I mean, it didn't take long. Early 90s, they pretty much jettisoned all thrash and heavy metal out of their sound, and they were pure folk metal then, weren't they? And that's when I switched off. I'm done then. I've not really come back to it.
Martin did do a tour though, didn't he? Martin, I'm not going to pronounce his surname because
I'll get it wrong.
I'm going to balls it up, but it was Martin Duda's Skyclad, wasn't it? And he had a band where he just did the from the albums he was on.
Yeah.
That was not long after the Sabbat reunion. So,
but he did think like Sabbath as well, didn't he? When he was trying to get them back together the first time round. So he's not. It's not unknown for him to try and go and look back maybe and go, right, actually that was a good time. I'm going to try and get that going again. But I would love to see Sabbath back together. I mean, UK Thrash, for me, UK Thrash is riding a critical high again at the moment. Acid Rain, Onslaught.
Yeah.
They've all put out in the last...
Yeah, they're all putting out great. And then you've got great bands like Shrapnel that are killing it at the moment.
Yeah. Evil have got a new one coming out.
Yes. I'm confused about Evil. I hope I'm going to try and get an interview with old Drake. Because... I know it's not as cut and dry as I see it, but I'm just like, right, I'm confused here. You left the band.
Yeah. Matt carried on.
You know, and they tried relaunching a couple of times, but they just never got off the ground. As it was the odds. Yeah. Right, here's a new lineup, and there was a sold out show at the Underworld, and then nothing happened.
Yeah, it went quiet, didn't it?
And then all of a sudden, I was back,
and Matt leaves.
Now the singer Matt's left.
Yeah.
And then they've got a new album out like that, and you go, but you left.
There's something going on in there.
Came back.
And it's a shame.
But it's just, obviously, it's not as, I'm just going about how I've seen it as a fan, outside looking in. But it's a bit, why did you leave? If you were just going to, So.
I mean, they've put a lot of years into it, haven't they? And I think sometimes you've only got to look at the pressures, I think, of trying to, look, I find it hard enough just to run a website.
It'd be good just to sort of fill in a few gaps, but I've got every confidence that that's going to be a great album.
I think so. It sounded heavy as fuck, didn't it? That I forget the name of the first track that they put out, but once you got used to the old vocal style, which was not what anybody probably expected because you're used to hearing Matt. Yeah. But once you got used to that after the first 30 seconds or so, great track.
I wonder as well how he's going to adapt to the old stuff as well. But they're doing a show, aren't they, where they're going to do the first album in full. So,
great album.
Yeah, I suppose time will tell, really. I mean, he's obviously played the old stuff. It's obviously going to work, but there will be a slight adjustment to the style. But it'd be good.
But you're right. I mean, there's some great stuff out there at the moment. There really is. There really, really is. For Sabbath to maybe make a comeback again, and I know it will be like a second or third time, but who wouldn't, once all this COVID bullshit's gone, who wouldn't want to go to a UK thrash all-dayer, where you had every single one of them are there doing their thing. I know it's 30 years on, but people still love the music. They do. And I think UK thrash actually has had a renaissance. The older stuff, I think people appreciate it more now than they did maybe then. So if you could get Reanimator and maybe we can get Annihilated back together, because they're done, aren't they? But, Zentrix, all of them, get them all back. I
mean, it'd be great. But also as well, I was always a little bit, don't leave it alone. It's going to be shit. It's not going to be as good. But I got proven wrong massively a few years ago because Acid Rain put out a new album.
Oh.
Exalder put out a new album. That was fucking fantastic.
Yeah.
As well as Acid Rain's album. That was my album of the year. And
what, the Exalder one?
Acid Rain, but Exalder was in there.
Good one.
Or if it was that the year later.
No,
but,
it feels about right. About 2 years.
Yeah.
Almost 2 years already. Yeah.
Possessed put out a new album.
Yeah.
Who would have thought that was going to be as good as it was?
Yeah.
And I'm trying to think of a load of examples that I can't now because my mind's just gone blank. I'm turning around. But there was this year where it was like all these bands came out that hadn't put out anything for ages. They had been, written off into the, history of metal. All of a sudden coming back with these new albums, and they were all brilliant. So I'm much more optimistic now once that happened. And hopefully Coroner are going to put out a new one as well.
Oh mate, honestly, we're waiting a long time for that.
Yeah, I've given up on Dark Angel though. I mean, as much as I'd love it, I just don't think it's going to happen.
But we got a new Viking album a couple of years back, which out of all of those bands, I mean, Viking virtually.
That was one of the guitarists from Dark Angel's other band, wasn't it?
Yeah, Mike Gonzalez. Yeah. And if they can put out an album, why haven't we got a Dark Angel one? But then Gene's busy. Gene's busy with Testament and everybody else. I don't know.
Unless Gene just puts the time aside, I can't.
Yeah.
And I think it's the same with Sabbat. I think I don't think Andy and Martin talk again. I think they're pulling out again. But even if they did, it would be a case of, well, Martin's got the new Judas Priest album to plus he's touring with them now. Again, it's a case of, well, when and how. I wish Andy Sneap would produce a Metallica or an Iron Maiden album myself. I think.
Do you want another Iron Maiden album, really?
Yeah.
I wasn't a fan of Book of Souls, man.
Oh, was you not? I thought I liked it.
No, didn't do it for me. Didn't do it for me. But the very fact that these bands are still going, and to bring back to the most recent UK thrash album that I think blew everyone away was Onslaught and Generation Antichrist.
Oh, it's a terrific album.
Who saw that coming? I mean, that to me, that's one of the best albums they've ever done. It has to be. It has to be.
Yeah. And there's not an ounce of fat on it.
No. And with Cy leaving, I thought, no, this ain't gonna work. There's just no way. There's no way. But Nige is a riff meister, isn't he? I mean, there's nothing in that man.
I didn't realise he wrote everything.
He always has, hasn't he? I think.
Yeah, he always. Everyone knew it except me. I didn't know he wrote everything. He he went. I went. So how did he write the lyrics? How did it fit with what Cy was doing? Or did Cy? There's a couple of his lyrics still on the album, and he went no, and he just sort of in that matter of fact way he's speaking. No, I'll do it all. Oh, did you?
How
long have you been doing that then?
Forever.
He went, since Power from Hell. I felt like a right knob. And I didn't know.
Since before you were born.
Yeah.
That's basically what you said, yeah.
Did you see the interview as well? I just said, oh, by the way, when this album was recorded, I was 6 months old.
Oh, yeah.
And I've got more grey hairs than him. So
he looks amazing, doesn't he? What a bastard. Hey, who doesn't miss hair? Yeah, I miss hair. What a bastard.
So let's sum up Sabbat.
Yeah.
I think 1 and 2 masterclass. A 1, 2.
You know what? Interchange them.
Interchangeable. Why would you get just one anyway? Again, why would you get some albums just fit together?
They do.
And Morning Is Broken. Don't be so harsh on it. And yes, that includes you, Andy Sneap. And
I don't think he gives a shit.
It's worth a go. Give it a go if you can find it.
If you can find it. It took me a while to get a copy. I remember that, and I did pay through the nose for it. But you know what? It was worth it. Curiosity alone. Sometimes you gotta give the underdog its day, and that album, for me, deserves a little bit more love than it gets. I don't think it gets enough. To just jettison it out of history books completely is wrong. It's wrong. It's a good album. It's a solid album.
Hell of a lot worse albums out there, and certainly a lot more deserving albums to get that sort of treatment than this one.
Yeah, absolutely, man.
Yeah, well, it was an absolute pleasure, Chris. Hopefully, get you on at some point, and we'll talk about something else. Maybe we'll do that film show, or think of another band that we can go through, or maybe talk about an underrated album. But yeah,
I've got loads of them, mate.
Check out worshipmetal.com if you haven't already. And yeah, thanks for coming on, man. It's great talking to you.
Cheers, bud. Thank you.
Yes, everyone. Nightmare Cabin. Great to see you. Thanks for watching. See you all soon.